Dear friends and fellows, there are times when a risk assessment has to focus on one person or one specific group of workers or few groups because they are more vulnerable to particular hazards or more at risk. Do you know these groups? Those are more vulnerable to particular hazards. These groups might be young persons, new and expectant mothers, the disabled, lone workers, and night shift workers. Welcome to HSC tutorial. Today we are discussing the special cases those must be considered during the risk assessment process to make it comprehensive, more specific, suitable, and sufficient. I'm your host, Javed, and you are watching Safety First. If you are new on this channel, kindly subscribe the channel, press the bell icon, and if you find the video informative, then like, comment, and share. First of all, we'll discuss the group of young workers or young persons. What are the reasons why they are considered more vulnerable to risk in a workplace? But before discussing the reasons, let us understand who is a young person. A young person is often defined by local law. For example, in the United Kingdom, a young person is anyone under the age of 18 years. But this age may be differ in different countries. Now, let us discuss the reasons why young workers are considered because due to lack of experience, knowledge and training, physical and perhaps mental immaturity, poor perception of risk, heavily influenced by peer group pressure, eager to show a willingness to work, be over enthusiastic, and less developed communication skills. These are the reasons why young persons are considered more vulnerable to particular hazards in a workplace, in a construction site. We have to think more carefully about the work that a young person is doing. It may be necessary to carry out risk assessments specifically with young persons in mind. Prohibit a young person from carrying out certain high risk activities, such as operating complicated machinery. Restrict their work patterns and hours. No night shift work or overtime for young workers. Training and close supervision to monitor and supervise young persons more closely than other workers and to provide clear lines of communication. Provide specific health surveillance, induction training at joining, along with the toolbox talk sessions for all high risk activities. These are the controls how you can keep your young persons safe at your workplace. Let us discuss now the group of new or expectant mothers. Dear friends and fellows, pregnant women and new mothers while breastfeeding or for the first 6 months after giving birth are more at risk from certain types of hazards. In most of these instances, the hazard presents a risk not only to the woman but also to the baby. Many of these hazards can cause miscarriage, birth defects, or ill health in the baby. Consequently, new and expectant mothers are often picked out by local law, which requires that they be given special consideration to the risk assessment process. Do you know the hazards that present great risk to pregnant women? For example, exposure to certain hazardous chemicals, exposure to certain biological agents, manual handling, especially later stage of pregnancy, extremes of temperature, either hot or cold, whole body vibration, economic issues, ionizing radiation, night shift working, environmental issues such as heat, light, or noise, etc., stress, and violence. Because of such reasons, conditions, or exposures, a pregnant woman or new mother is considered to be at high risk. In all cases where a woman reports that she is pregnant, a risk assessment should be carried out focusing on the work that she is doing and the hazards that might increase risk to her and the child. It may then be necessary to change the type of work or the way that it is done, change the hours of work, suspend the woman from the workplace for some time as per her health and medical condition. By adopting these measures, we can protect woman or her baby to some extent. And this must be the process, and this must be the part of our risk assessment process to consider expectant, pregnant, or new mothers. Dear friends and fellows, you are watching Safety First. Today we are discussing how to consider special cases in the risk assessment process. Let us discuss now disabled workers. People with disabilities may be at greater risk from particular hazards, depending on the nature and extent of their disability. For example, a visually impaired worker may be able to carry out a packaging operation at their workstation without any risk to themselves or others, but they may find it very difficult to evacuate from the building during a fire using an escape route that is unfamiliar to them. In this instance, they may need some assistance in the form of any evacuation buddy, any assistance. Disabled workers are at risk because of reduced mobility, access to welfare facilities, reduced sensory input to recognize hazards, and reduced communication ability. During the risk assessment process, it may be necessary to identify certain health and fitness criteria for some jobs and then evaluate staff against these criteria. This may result in those with a certain disability being excluded from doing these jobs. For example, forklift truck drivers should have their eyesight checked before being allowed to drive. Identify workers with known disabilities and consider what the implications of their particular type and level of disability might be. Another group, that is lone workers, are more vulnerable. Workers who work entirely on their own for periods of time are those who are not alone but are not with colleagues on whom they can rely on for help might be classified as lone workers. For example, a service engineer who spends 4 hours alone in a plant room servicing machinery is a lone worker. But so is a healthcare worker who travels around in the local community visiting elderly patients to provide care, even though they may be in sight of other people at all times during their working day. In both cases, this is an example of lone working. Lone workers are a group of workers who are especially vulnerable in certain instances. Lone workers are more at risk of violence, particularly if the worker is exposed to members of the public, has to travel out into the community, or is involved in work that brings them into contact with violent people, such as in prisons or mental health institutions. Lone workers may be more at risk if they are injured or fall ill. Certain types of work involve a high risk of personal injury or ill health, for example, confined space entry. In these situations, Lone working may be inappropriate or additional precautions may be necessary to protect the individuals or the workers from harm. Another special group, another special condition is night shift working. What factors to consider during night shift working? Hours worked and recovery period between shifts, disruption of normal routine, journal well-being, fatigue and human error, level of supervision required, and contact for lone working, access to specialist advice, increased risk of violence traveling to or from work, emergency arrangements, first aid facilities, access to welfare amenities, and the work environment, lighting or heat, etc. Dear friends and fellows, unless and until we will not consider these special cases or these special groups, every group, every special case in our risk assessment, like lone working, night shift working, disabled workers, young workers, are expected, pregnant, or new mothers will not consider the hazards and we will not provide appropriate precautions, we cannot claim that our risk assessment process or risk assessment document is suitable, sufficient, and specific with the site requirements or the project needs. And that's it. Training session related to risk assessment for special groups is over now. If you have any question, please ask in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching and don't forget to like, comment and share the video. Hope to see you soon with a new HSC tutorial. Till then, take care, good luck and Allah Hafiz.